Hi everyone. So I have been talking a lot about the energy pyramid and food chains and food webs, but today I wanted to step back and look at the bigger picture, what those things make up. So that would be our ecosystems. Ecosystems are all living things in a given area interacting with each other, including the non-living things, which can be just about anywhere. We have aquatic ecosystems that house marine life, like this coral reef. And we also have terrestrial ecosystems, which are forests and grasslands that can be host to a variety of land-dwelling animals and plants. So let's stop and think about the environment or the ecosystem that we live in. What kind of animals do we have? What kind of plants do we have that support it? So being that we're in Louisiana, a lot of people will automatically think about the swamps or the marshlands, and we have a variety of factors that go into that ecosystem. We have our cypress trees, we have our moss. If you're in Chico, it's probably filled with duckweed. And then we have our consumers, which would be cranes and fish, alligators and frogs hiding under the water. And of course, we have our mosquitoes and water, as I said, and sunlight, all very important to support the ecosystem as a whole. All of those things can be categorized in two different ways, biotic and abiotic. Biotic would be any living thing, so our producers and consumers would be categorized there, plants, as we see here, the flowers, and any kind of animals. Abiotic factors would be sunlight, water, temperature, participation. So in what ways do abiotic factors support our ecosystem? We get sunlight from the sun, which plants use during photosynthesis, which makes them grow. That's by making their own food. They also need the soil, which we get from we can see in the rock cycle that sediment. We usually get sediment that makes up our soil eventually. And we also have rain or precipitation that nourishes our producers. And because we have plant growth, we are able to have biotic factors. It starts out with our plants, our producers, and see here we have our grain that our cows get to eat. So they graze on our producers, and we as humans eventually get to make delicious burgers from the cows. So let's take a quick review and hear from Dr. Jeff over at Generation Genius.
I'm Dr. Jeff Finneker, and today we're going to explore the science of ecosystems. With Dr. Jeff.
So tell us, Dr. Jeff, what exactly is an ecosystem?
An ecosystem is a community of interacting organisms and their environment.
Oh, so like me interacting with my couch and TV, eating seafood last night?
Not quite. An ecosystem describes an area where living things interact with each other and also with non-living things like soil, water, and air. In an ecosystem, each organism has its own role to play. And it can be as small as your backyard or as big as the ocean. Let's look at our sealed ecosphere as an example. In our ecosphere, light energy helps the algae grow. The algae is then eaten by the shrimp. When the shrimp poop, tiny bacteria in the water feed on it. The bacteria then convert that poop to nutrients that help the algae grow.
Wow, it's like a cycle.
Exactly. However, if the needs of the organisms aren't met, the balance of the ecosystem can be destroyed. For instance, if there was no light, the algae wouldn't grow. That means the shrimp would die since they wouldn't have any algae to eat. And if the shrimp stopped pooping, the bacteria die too.
So everything in an ecosystem interacts and depends on each other for survival.
Hey kids, if you want to watch this whole episode.
Alrighty, so both I and Dr. Jeff went over some pretty big words, so let's look at the vocabulary and match them up, just to make sure that we understand. So here we have living things. What do we define as living things? Biotic factors, right? What is an organism that eats other organisms to obtain energy? A consumer, right? Our consumers eat our producers. The non-living characteristics of an ecosystem, so like temperature or precipitation, that would be our abiotic factors, right? An organism that creates its own energy from sunlight through photosynthesis. Our producers. And lastly, includes all living things, so plants, animals, organisms in a given area interacting with each other and with their non-living environments, earth, weather, sun, soil, climate, atmosphere, are ecosystems, exactly what we're studying. So let's quickly make our own ecosystem, which is an important abiotic factor that our ecosystem would need. So abiotic is a non-living thing. Out of these three, our sun is our non-living thing. So we can put a sun in our ecosystem. Now we need biotic factors. So we need first a producer, so someone who's going to make their own food from our sunlight. Would that be a cloud, a crane, or grass? No, it wouldn't be a crane. So someone that makes their own food would be actually our grass. Now we need a primary consumer, so something that consumes our producer, a grasshopper, right? So grasshoppers only eat vegetation. Our secondary consumer, someone who would consume our primary consumer. We may think it's a cow because it's quite large, but it would actually be our mouse, because our mouse would eat a grasshopper before a cow would. Cows typically only eat vegetation or hay. Now we need a tertiary consumer, so someone at the top of the food chain that would eat the mouse and possibly the grass and our grasshopper. Our crane, yes. So we actually just made an ecosystem. And what kind of ecosystem would this be named? A grassland, yes.